Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
All right, what is good, everybody? Welcome to another future award-winning episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo sports talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you kindly to everyone out there for listening and watching, for following and subscribing. You guys are the best, and I appreciate you very, very much. I spent a good chunk of my Monday watching the game film several times in some cases. Also went through the PFF grades. I sifted through them as well. And I got a handful of my biggest Buffalo Bills takeaways from week one. A closer than we wanted to be victory over the Arizona Cardinals, but a win nonetheless. And the Buffalo Bills are 1-0 on the season, going into an already big Thursday night showdown, AFC rival, Miami Dolphins on the road. So we're going to talk about my biggest takeaways on today's show. Before we get into that real quick, I want to tell you about a really cool event that is coming up on Thursday evening or late afternoon, early evening at Imperial Pizza. It's called Logan's Friendship Bracelet Event. If you don't know a lot about this story or nothing about it at all, if you're a Bills fan, you might have heard of it. But Logan is an 8-year-old Buffalo Bills super fan who was really excited that the team took Keon Coleman. He handwrote a letter to Keon. He welcomed him to the Buffalo Bills organization. He let him know that Imperial Pizza has the best pizza in Buffalo. He let him know that Wegmans has the best sandwiches in Buffalo and some other cool stuff in his handwritten letter. And he also sent him a bracelet that he made, a friendship bracelet. Keon Coleman, of course, wore that bracelet, and it kind of took off from there. So Logan and his family have decided to do something really, really cool with this newfound popularity with them and this bracelet. What they did is they're producing them and they are selling them $8 a pop. But here's the cool part. All the proceeds from everything that is made at this event is going directly to charity, more specifically, Osiris Children's Hospital. I mean, man, oh man, you talk about a great cause. Besides the bracelets, which again, they will be available for purchase at Imperial Pizza for $8. There's all kinds of raffles. Whew. You want to talk about some really cool stuff that's up for grabs? Keon Coleman football, signed Keon Coleman football, a signed Keon Coleman jersey, signed Josh Allen helmet, a signed mini helmet by Joe Andreessen. I know Taron Johnson's got some stuff. There's a lot of really cool stuff. Plus a 50-50 drawing. Again, all the money that is raised is going to go to Osiris Children's Hospital, an unbelievably great cause. That's Thursday, this Thursday, September 12th, Imperial Pizza, the 1035 Abbott Road location, I should point out as well, 4:30 p.m. If you happen to be in the area, make sure you get there. It's going to be a lot of fun. And again, for a great cause. And if you don't know that area that well and you ain't an Imperial Pizza regular, let me give you a secret of the pros. Be prepared to park on a side street nearby, because I would imagine that this event is going to be packed. Packed for all the right reasons, but packed. So be prepared to potentially park on a side street. Again, that is this Thursday. Before diving into, again, my biggest takeaways after watching the film, after going through PFF grades, some quick news, actually. Good news, bad news. On Monday, I'm taping this early evening on Monday. First, we'll get to the bad news. Taron Johnson has already been ruled out by head coach Sean McDermott for Thursday's game. No other information available given, I should say, by Sean at all, which kind of sucks. No timeline given by Sean, which kind of sucks. I think the one thing that's pretty obvious at this point is that it's a forearm injury. He's already been ruled out. Didn't say day to day. Didn't say week to week either. Logic tells you that it's likely a forearm, probably a fracture. And just for some context, I went and I looked this up earlier. Philadelphia Eagles tight end Dallas Goedert fractured his forearm and had to have surgery. He ended up missing about a month. So again, I hate speculating on stuff like this. We might know a lot more. Hell, by the time you listen to this sometime on Tuesday, maybe we'll have more information. But I think it's pretty safe to assume that you could say goodbye to Taron Johnson being in a Bills uniform on the field anyway for as little as maybe 2 to 5 weeks, which of course that sucks considering you're only in week 2 and now you're down Matt Milano until at least December and Taron Johnson, an all-pro slot corner, possibly for a handful of weeks and maybe even more. We'll see. But anyway, that's the shitty news. Also, Dewan Smoot is trending towards not playing again. I didn't think that was going to be a big deal, by the way. He did not play in the opener. I'm like, whatever. Turns out it was a pretty big deal because Casey Hill, he's not it. He's not it. There's your first PFF game film takeaway. Casey Hill, not it. I wouldn't be surprised if Kingsley Jonathan gets called up from the practice squad if Javon Sullivan can't play in addition again because he didn't play week 1 either. But anyway, he's likely out. The good news, the big news, Josh Allen cleared to practice and to play. So he will be practicing this week. And of course, he will be on the field Thursday night. Good thing for the Bills, seeing that he quite literally has owned the Miami Dolphins throughout his career. Obviously, an injured hand fell on it during that sweet hurdle touchdown on Sunday. Lots of concern there, but it looks like he's going to be all right. Quickly, as for the game itself on Sunday, before I dive into some of these takeaways here, my non-scientific, my non-film, my non-analytical takeaway from this game is I never felt good about it, ever, at any point. I hate these kind of home openers. When the Bills are the superior team and they're at home and they're playing what's perceived as a very weak team. When you got a tough schedule coming up after a week opener, it almost feels like a no-win situation. And one of the things we talked about on previous shows all last week was, holy shit, man, for an opener, boy, oh boy, this sure feels like a must-win game for the Buffalo Bills. And it was. For all intents and purposes, this was a must-win game. And it's like, well, you win. Well, that's what you're supposed to do. You're the better team. You need to win. You're at home. You're supposed to win. If you can do it with some style points, pretty cool. But regardless, you're supposed to do that. But you lose. And there were moments in this game, especially, in the first half, where it certainly looked like the Bills were headed towards losing. And wow, you're 0-1. You just lost at home to the Arizona Cardinals. You're on the road week 2 in Miami. Then you got Jacksonville. And then you go right back to the road. Baltimore, Houston, the New York Jets. And holy shit, this season can get away from you really, really quick. That's the way it felt in the first half. It came down to literally the last minute of the game, which, come on, man, you're playing Arizona week 1. I ain't ready for that anxiety at the end of a football game. It's going to be a long season, I think. A lot of close games with this football team this season. But anyway, end of the day, you pull it out. My whole point was, God, I did not like that schedule when it came out that they played Arizona, but got it done. 1-0. I guess that's all that matters. As for film takeaways here, PFF takeaways, let me say this. I could spend this entire podcast doing nothing literally except talking about Josh Allen and Greg Rousseau. Guess what? They were great. Really great. You know it. I know it. Let's just move on. The Buffalo Bills are not 1-0 if Josh Allen doesn't play at the level he played at, and if Greg Rousseau doesn't play at the level that he played at. There's nothing I could tell you that popped out on film or any PFF grade that you didn't see with your own eyes. So let's just move on from them so we can get to a bunch of other things. Kind of ditto with the coordinators as well. Not going to really talk much about them, at least not today. Maybe we'll do more talking about them throughout the week. Both of them did a good job of making adjustments. The Bills scored. When they scored on their 4 touchdowns, they threw the ball 66% of the on those 4 touchdown drives. I thought on the defensive side, Bobby Babbitt did a really good job at halftime, dialing up more pressure. So both him and Joe Brady were fine after shaky starts. You know what? Let's be real here, folks. More than anything else, the players just simply played better after the first 20, 25 minutes. It's as simple as that. In terms of specific stuff, and again, this isn't really a film thing, but you look at the snap counts. I mean, wow. The usage of the Bills' defensive line, especially Greg Rousseau and Ed Oliver, that was huge. And it's different, and it's not something that we're used to seeing for the Buffalo Bills. Greg Rousseau played 48 of 61 snaps. 79% of the snaps Greg Rousseau was out there for. Per Joe DiBiase from WGR, it's the most that any Bills defensive end has played in a singular game since Taron Johnson played 92% of the snaps against the New York Jets, Week 17, 2019, which was a completely meaningless game where most of the starters either didn't play at all or they had a quick cup of coffee like a preseason game. So Taron Johnson played almost that entire game. That was the 4th highest result on Sunday that defensive end has ever played during the Sean McDermott era. Ed Oliver played even more, 82% of the snaps. I got something to say about Ed. We're going to get to him in a few minutes. Daquan Jones, 74% of the snaps. AJ Epinesa played 79% of the snaps. A big step up for him. He is a guy who has rarely, if ever, played more than 50% of the snaps of the game. He played 79%. Part of that, at least, was him kicking inside with Dwayne Smoot, who plays that role as well, being out. Von Miller played 48% of the snaps, which I think feels just about right for him, and he was effective too. To some extent, this is, we're going to see. Is this a product of Bobby Babbitt being defensive coordinator right now? Is this going to be the norm? Or was this more of a product of stars were playing for the most part anyway, were playing well, and they just weren't getting anything from the depth? Now, with all these snaps and playing time, Groot delivered. Quite frankly, Ed Oliver didn't. But you look at the other guys, especially again with Dwayne Smoot being out too. Dwayne Carter, by the way, the 3rd round rookie, played just 7 snaps. That's it. Thought he would have a bigger debut. I'm not worried about him. It's 1 game. He's a rookie. That's fine. But he just played 7 snaps in his debut. Casey Toohill, who looked utterly lost, he played 11 snaps. I do not think you'll see him out there Thursday. If it comes down to it, like I said, I can see a practice squad elevation. He just ain't it. He's not it. So hopefully, Javon Solomon, who I think is going to be limited at practice this week, maybe he can get out there. If not, they got to come up with something else. But anyway, I think in part, the lack of production from the depth is the reason why some of these guys played more than normal. And hopefully it's just going to be the pattern, because quite frankly, when you got a guy like Greg Rousseau, he shouldn't be playing 50 to 57% of the snaps. He's just too good. All right, let's dive into a couple of specific takeaways based on going back and watching the film or going over some PFF grades. And I'll tell you, I want to start with a guy that I did not expect to be talking about, certainly not near the top of any Buffalo Bills biggest takeaway discussion before the game. And that's Cam Lewis. Josh Allen playing great. Greg Rousseau playing great. That ain't no surprise. Cam Lewis, though, balled out. This kid played well. Taron Johnson gets hurt just 4 minutes into the game, and we're like, oh, shit, here we go. Here we go. Another star player down on the defense already. And Cam Lewis came in, and I thought he played really good. By the way, I like the confidence that Sean McDermott and or Bobby Babbitt showed to stay with that nickel defense once Johnson went out. Even though Cam Lewis, is even smaller than Johnson. And Johnson, for a linebacker anyway, is small. He just plays that position so well. He's such a physical, aggressive player that the Bills get away with playing basically a base nickel. Didn't think that'd be the case, though, for an extended period of time with Cam Lewis. Like, it would have been easy, probably a mistake, but would have been easy to go to a more traditional 4-3 base look and go with Braylon Spector or Nick Morrow in that look. But they didn't. They stuck with Cam Lewis, and I feel like he rewarded them, especially in the second half. I counted on film at least 4, and it might have been more, but there were at least 4 tackles that Cam Lewis had where he tackled the guy from the line of scrimmage to maybe 3 yards. He was making plays at the line, shooting gaps, filling, and not missing tackles. He was good. He was also pretty productive in the pass coverage game as well. In fact, it was 2nd and 10, just 36 seconds left in the game, and he had a really nice pass breakup over the middle on a Murray throw intended for Dortch. Really good play. In fact, I thought for a split second might be a flag. I guess that's the way every pass play looks when there's any contact whatsoever. But no, it was a great play by Cam Lewis. I thought he was, if Josh Allen and Greg Rousseau are the stars of the game and the heroes of the game, I thought without question that Cam Lewis was the unsung hero of this game for the Bills. And watching it back on film, the way he was just shooting gaps, getting underneath blockers, and making plays, could not be more impressed. So happy for the UB kid. Such a versatile player. Nickel slot, outside corner if he has to, free safety, special teams contributor. He was originally supposed to be the dime safety. That's where he practiced all week. That was the plan, but things changed when Johnson went out. So good for him. Flip side, he looked lousy in the game and he looked lousy on film. And I'm going to call it out again. I did it yesterday. I'm going to do it again. Ed Oliver. I thought Ed Oliver stunk. And I don't think I'm telling you something that you don't already know. And here's how I feel at this point about Ed Oliver. I don't want to rehash too much of what I already said yesterday, but maybe you didn't see the show. So I'm going to anyway. You cannot be a star player in the NFL and be an absolute, complete, and utter non-factor for an entire football game for 60 minutes like Ed Oliver just was on Sunday. It's inexcusable. Not everyone has their best game. Sometimes you just don't have it. But somehow, some way, you find a way. If you're a star and you're an important player, like Travis Kelce or Chris Jones, they could be shit for 3.5 quarters, but at some point, they're going to make a play because they're stars, and that's what stars do. Chris Jones, Christian Wilkins, Quinnen Williams, Jeffrey Simmons, Leonard Williams, you name it. I keep going and going and going. These top-tier defensive tackles had quiet days, but they are never complete and utter no-shows for literally all 4 quarters, regardless of the offense they play against, regardless of who the quarterback is, regardless of the game plan, regardless if they're trying to go away from him, whatever the excuse may be. And there's a lot of Ed Oliver excuse makers out there. I've encountered plenty of them already just on Monday alone. I don't give a shit what the game plan is. You find a way. If you are a legit, true star player, somehow, some way, you find a way to do something, anything to help your team win. And from what I saw on Sunday, and then from what I saw watching the game back, zero. I saw nothing. Nothing. You know what else? 33 pass rushes per PFF, by the way. 33 pass rushes, 1 hurry. No sacks. No hits. His pressure win percentage for that game per PFF, 3%. In the running game, 17 run snaps, did not produce a tackle. Not even an assisted tackle. I went and looked it up. Through Sunday, 117 defensive tackles played a minimum of 20% of their team snaps. 117. Ed Oliver's overall PFF grade on Sunday, 106 out of 117. There's not many all or nothing players in the NFL more than Ed Oliver. I mean, this is some Tim Settle, Jordan Phillips bad game type shit. But this ain't coming from Tim Settle or Jordan Phillips. This is coming from one of your best players or one of your perceived best players, a star player. It's just ridiculous. I'm tired of calling him a star. Ed Oliver is a streaky player who puts together some really nice runs, who will destroy you on Thanksgiving. He will feast a couple times a year on some really shitty opponents, the Patriots, the Titans, Carolina Panthers. He'll probably put together a 5-quarter stretch where he has 4.5 sacks, which will be more than half the total for an entire season. That's kind of what he does. But when he's not good, he is absolutely not a factor at all. I mean, he literally did not make a single play in this game. And if you're going to come at me and say, well, he was taking up blockers, the game plan wasn't around him, they did this, they did that, Arizona did this, they did that, talk that shit to someone else, man. I do not want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. It's ridiculous. I had a commenter, not to call him out specifically, because I had plenty of options here. But somebody on Twitter, his name's Andrew, he says, that's concerning, talking about Ed's game on Sunday, but when he shows up, it'll be in a big way. Let's hope it's on Thursday. Again, when he shows up, like, what are we doing here? This isn't Dwayne Carter we're talking about. This ain't Javon Sullivan. This ain't Kingsley Jonathan. This ain't Austin Johnson. We're talking about the 17th highest paid defensive tackle in the NFL right now. We're talking about a top 10 pick. We are talking about a cornerstone player on a championship contending football team. When he shows up, it'll be in a big way. Guess what, dude? Star players show up all the time, period, end of story. And what he did on film was just as ugly as what you saw with your own eyes if you were watching on Sunday. Be right back. All right, I am back going over some of my biggest Buffalo Bills takeaways from watching the game film, from pouring over the PFF grades. Really got to get off these Ed Oliver rants. They take a lot out of me. Let's switch and talk something more positive. I'll tell you what, Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman may have won me over already. I've said it all week long. If you're a regular on the show, I ain't got no hatred for Keon Coleman. I got no problems with Keon Coleman, but my expectations for Keon Coleman was going to be a very, very slow start as a rookie, somebody who I figured would be brought in and brought along very slowly. And maybe as the season progressed, his role would start to grow incrementally a little bit more and more and more. Well, I was wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. If there's one thing about this football team where I feel different from 12:59 p.m. to say 4:30 p.m., how I changed my mind about a player or a position that I didn't feel the same way before the game, it's probably Keon Coleman. He played more snaps. He had more targets. He had more catches. He had more yards than any other wide receiver on the Bills, which very much surprises me. And I'm being honest, I'm surprised in a good way. And he also drew 2 defensive flags. That catch he made when he literally boxed out the defender from Arizona, it was a Starling Thomas down that right sideline. It was a 28-yard play down to the 8-yard line. I'm going to be honest with you. Before now, because we all know he's got a basketball background. He was going to Michigan State originally to play basketball, for ended up playing football at Florida State. I'm like, I don't give a shit. This is football. It ain't going to mean that much. Well, based on what I saw Sunday, maybe it does. I don't feel that way anymore. That was a classic basketball style box out. What a perfect way, picture perfect way to use your body to box your opponent out. That's what he did. You could literally see on that one play alone why the Buffalo Bills, why Brandon Beane and this staff loves this kid. 4 catches on 5 targets in all. And the one miss wasn't even on him whatsoever. It was an end zone fade that never had a chance. Quite frankly, Josh Allen probably should have pulled that back and not even thrown it. But yeah, man, if there's one player on this team or one position where I change my mind between 12:59, between 4:30 p.m., it's Keon Coleman. I like the way he looked on film. And now I'm at a point where I'm going into week 2, week 3, etc. I expect him to be a bigger part of the game plan. Now, talking about game plans real quick here. A lot of people are like, well, Dalton Kincaid only had 1 catch. That sucks. It does. But you know what? You can see by watching, they were all over Dalton Kincaid. Kind of like in basketball, where you're just going to double team a guy every time he touches the ball. You ain't going to let him beat you. You're going to make someone else beat you. Kind of what I feel like Arizona's defensive game plan was going into this game, especially watching it on film. This guy was getting doubled a ton. There was someone low on him, and then there'd be somebody over the top every time to make sure he didn't get down any seams. There was a concerted effort going on from Arizona to shut down Dalton Kincaid. Which in and everybody eats kind of offense. 9 guys caught a ball for the Bills. That's fine. There's going to be some games where Dalton Kincaid doesn't light it up. And then there's going to be some games where you have to do some things differently, defenses, and he will. Anyway, zero concern. I saw nothing from Dalton Kincaid that I would be the least bit worried about. Can't say the same, though, for the Bills starting left guard, second-year guard Osiris Torrens. To the naked eye, I thought he had a nightmare afternoon on Sunday. And after watching the film and looking at the PFF stuff, he certainly did. He was lousy. He was lousy on Sunday. He gave up 3 pressures, committed 3 penalties, including just that egregious face mask where he held on to the guy forever. The ref had to throw it. He had no choice. And then, of course, that wiped out a Josh Allen touchdown, literally cost his team 4 points there. He missed blocks on film, you could see blatantly, too. I mean, he struggled picking up blitzers. He graded out overall on PFF at a 35.1, which is by far the worst single game grade of his career. I certainly think he's better than he played on Sunday. So I'm like, I'm not smashing no panic button right now because of a bad game from their guard. But that said, if I'm being honest, I know the offseason worry has been David Edwards just kind of being more or less handed the starting left guard position, which, by the way, he was solid. More on him in a second. I'm going to be honest with you, man. I'm a little bit more worried about Osiris Torrens right now than I am David Edwards, who, had a nice little track record, a Super Bowl winner with the Rams who started on that team. I got some concerns about Torrens. I didn't like what I saw Sunday, but it's not just based on this game. I was not as high on him last year as most. Maybe I just see things differently. Maybe I'm dumb. I don't know. But week 1, I could tell you this, it did nothing to make me feel better about him going forward. Again, not smashing the panic button. I know he's had some really good graded games. And I know there's a lot of smart football people out there that probably have a different opinion. I'm sure if you go on Cover 1, they're going to show some really good stuff from Osiris Torrens this week. And that's not to say I think they're wrong. I'm just telling you, I think a little bit differently. I would say this. He's somebody to keep your eyes on going forward. I'll leave it at that. Another fact I saw after watching on film, then I went to PFF. I'm like, why is Rousseau Douglas not making a play? Why is Christian Bedford not making a play? Well, I'll tell you why. Because they weren't being tested. That's why. It was pretty obvious with the Cardinals, their head coach, Jonathan Gannon, the offensive coordinator, what the hell's his name? Drew Petzing. The game plan did not involve testing the Bills' outside corners. Benford, Douglas, not even a little bit. Went on PFF, I looked it up. I had to do a second take because I couldn't believe this shit. I was like, what? They were targeted both corners, outside boundary corners combined 3 times. He gave up 2 catches for 4 yards. That's it. 2 catches, 4 yards. I thought that was a terrible mistake by the Arizona Cardinals. Like, you got Marvin Harrison Jr., and you didn't even really try to get him the ball that much. Just 3 targets, 1 catch, 4 yards. Now he had a bad drop. That's it. How is he not getting the ball? How are you not going to him? Make Bedford, make Douglas make plays. Get him the football. I sure hope if I'm a Cardinals fan, that's just not a pattern. You get sometimes coaches get too cute. And this was the benefit, this benefited the Bills. Because I got to wonder, what in God's name is their offensive coordinator thinking? It's 3rd and 10. You're down 6, and you're on the 30-yard line with just 32 seconds left. And you try to run the football on 3rd and 10? I know you got a couple timeouts, but what? I mean, I suppose the thought was you got Von Miller on the field and, you might surprise them and pull off a first down. And now you got a new set of downs. You're inside the 20 and you still got, you'd have at least 1 timeout left, maybe 20 seconds or so left. I just don't agree with that call. Don't take the ball out of Murray's hands. What are you doing there? By the way, really nice job on that ill-fated decision to run the football by the Cardinals. Von Miller made a great play simply by containing. He did not get caught inside, did not let James Conner get outside of him. He forced him inside. And to the credit of Dorian Williams, Dorian Williams filled that gap real nicely, understood the assignment, stepped up, and he made a very, very nice solo tackle to bring Conner down for just a 3-yard gain, forcing a 4th and 7. That was a great play by Williams. And again, I just can't believe that Douglas and Benford got tested as little as they did. Now, I know the Bills, they're going to go after the Bills a lot in the middle of the field, make them make plays. The tight ends are going to get a lot of work this season. But man, put it this way. I can guarantee you on Thursday that Benford and Douglas are going to have a lot more than 3 combined targets when they're going against Hill and Waddle. But man, that just blew my mind watching that. Little bit worried about the safety position. And by the way, these takes, if you haven't figured this out yet, they're not necessarily in order of importance. They're kind of just random here. I was watching the game and kind of writing some stuff down as we went along, and whatever way it works out, it works out. I am worried about the safety position. I was worried about before the game. I'm worried about after the game. I love Babbage getting aggressive. At the end of the game, that 4th and 7, final drive, game likely on the line, and Babbage blitzed 2 guys. He rushed 6. The front 4, plus he also blitzed both Terrell Bernard and Cam Lewis up the middle. And it forced a quick Murray throw. He didn't get a chance to scan the field, go to other targets, and Ingram defended it well. Arguably not well if you're a Cardinals fan. I mean, maybe he got away with a call, but, game on the line, home stadium. You're not going to have a wishy-washy call at the end. Well, I shouldn't say that because often you do in the NFL. Anyway, no call. Good play by Ingram, but I like that. I like the call by Babbage. I liked bringing the heat. I like the play Ingram made. Well, I'll tell you what I didn't like. I didn't like that Kyler Murray took the snap, looked left the entire time. You can see on film, too. He never even looked anywhere else but that left sideline guy. That was his read. That was his option the whole time. He looks there the whole time, chucks it up there. Not a bullet by any means. This was no Josh Allen throw. Plenty of air under the ball. And Damar Hamlin still arrived late. Got away with it because, again, Ingram made a play. But, man, I'm so used to so many years. That type of play, end of the game on the line. Maybe I'm spoiled, but I'm so used to Micah Hyde getting to that spot for an interception, which, if you read that play better, it should have probably been an easy interception for a free safety playing, center field there in that situation. But Hamlin got there late. I didn't see anything from Taylor Rapp or Hamlin this game on tape, watching it back too, that gives me any more confidence that I had in them before, which again, admittedly, not a lot. It was a specific play with Taylor Rapp too. It's 2nd and 7. It's the 3rd quarter, like Arizona's 34-yard line, I think it was. He got soundly beat by Trey McBride up the seam for what would have been at least a 25-yard gain. Because again, Kyler Murray didn't even look anywhere else, but Damar Hamlin still didn't get there, and Rapp was one-on-one in coverage, and he got beat. But fortunately for the Bills, it was not a good throw. It was low, a little bit underthrown, so no damage done. I just feel like both these guys, they both seem a little late to the ball, little conservative too, like they're afraid to kind of like make a mistake. Like a lot of times in the running game, and I've seen this even in the preseason with Taylor Rapp too, it's like running sideways and backwards instead of trying to come up and make a play. And then just something about it I don't like, especially with Rapp. I mean, particularly. He was late to like 3 or 4 plays that, at least my interpretation in the film from what I saw, where he should have been there quicker. I think Cole Bishop, 2nd round rookie, he's going to have a role, maybe a big one when he's completely up to speed. He didn't play in this game. Wednesday was his first padded practice in a very long time, so he's a rookie. Sure, Sean wasn't confident enough to play him. As for Mike Edwards, I ain't sure what's going on with him. I get a sense that this staff doesn't, I don't say like, they're not confident in him. They haven't liked what they've seen from him as much as they hoped when they signed him many months ago. Because I feel like if so, he probably starts. I mean, he's been practicing now for over a full week. He was back at the first practice after the last preseason game, full go. And He's healthy enough to be active. He's healthy enough to play special teams. More on that in a second, too. But he's not starting over DeMar Hamlin. That's pretty, to me, maybe I'm reading the tea leaves a little bit too much. And I don't know. But I didn't like that. I'm hopeful that Bishop and Edwards will have bigger roles, if not starters, in this defense. At least one of those two for Hamlin. I don't think Rapp's going anywhere. This team, I think Sean McDermott likes Rapp a lot, but just not confident in the safety play, and I haven't been. What I am confident in, more confident anyway after this game, James Cook. Thought he had a good game. The Bills ran the ball on 1st and 10 with him. That was like their preferred method of attack. 13 times in this game. James Cook had 19 carries for the game. 13 of those times he ran on 1st and 10. And when he did, he ran for 63 yards, which is just a touch under 5 yards a carry. And that's with 2 negative runs late in the game when Arizona was like literally selling out to stop the run. Buffalo had the lead. In fact, I was yelling, please, 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 play action. It's going to be somebody wide open. But no, the Bills were smash mouthing at the time. And a couple stops for a negative game. But anyway, really good for James Cook there, man. I was annoyed watching it in real time. Thought Joe Brady was being a little conservative. So 8 of those 13 carries by Cook on 1st down went for at least 5 yards, including 4 of them for at least 9. Conversely, when it was at 1st and 10, he ran the ball 6 times and only got 11 yards. I like what I saw for James Cook on Sunday, especially watching the game back. I thought maybe Ray Davis or even Taron Johnson were ready for kind of a platoon situation, but that's a little premature. Let's pump the brakes, especially if you're going to get this James Cook. And all, he had 22 touches, and I thought he did the most with them. He didn't drop a pass, which, of course, that's big. He didn't fumble, of course, which that is big. But, watching the game back, I didn't see him shy away from any contact on film whatsoever. And I'm not sure you could say the same last year. He was patient when he needed to be. He hit holes aggressively when he needed to be. I thought it was a very good, under-the-radar game for James Cook. Again, the stats don't blow you away, anything like that, but I thought it was a really solid game watching it back from James Cook. One more takeaway from this game on the film anyway. A lot of you might be wondering what in the hell happened on the Bills' ill-fated kickoff when they went up 11. Well, one thing that happened was Tyler Bass didn't get the ball to the end zone. Wind was in his face. Still don't know. Was it a decision to try to not hit the end zone? Was it a decision to kick it off? Or was it just simply Tyler couldn't get it to the end zone because of the wind? We don't know that. But here's what I do know. There are some people to blame specifically on this coverage fiasco that got Arizona back in the game where it felt like this game was about to be over. Dallas gets the kick. Cam Lewis gets pushed out just a little bit. Not really his fault. Braylon Spector's like a shade late, get into a lane early on. Not really so much his fault. Where the fault starts, it's primarily 3 players, maybe 4. First and foremost, Kyrie Elam just completely whiffs. I mean, he literally whiffed on a tackle. And simultaneously, Reggie Gilliam, who was also right there, for somebody who's a good core special teams player, just a poor effort tackling. That sprung VJ Dallas loose. And Ray Davis, I like Ray Davis. I'm a Ray Davis guy. You know that if you watch this show, you listen to this show. I think I'm a Ray Davis guy as a running back. I ain't no Ray Davis dude as a special teams guy, especially after watching this play. One of the most piss poor tackle attempts, shoulder block attempts you'll ever see on a kick return. So he just whiffs. Like I said, Gilliam, terrible on this play. Elam, terrible on this play. And then Mike Edwards was kind of like the last line of defense, and he just took a poor outside angle. And then it concerns me about him. He just got straight up outran by Dallas. And Dallas is a pretty big back, man. He's not the fastest guy in the world, and he got outran by him. I don't like that at all. That concerns me about Mike Edwards. So if you're wondering what the hell went wrong on that kick coverage, it was a combination. Elam, Gilliam, Ray Davis, Mike Edwards. Pretty much that's who you could throw the blame at when it comes in. And by the way, quick little side note too. Interesting that Ingram was the dime safety and not Kyrie Elam. They didn't come up with a different look on the fly. That surprised me at least a little bit because Elam had a really good summer. Anyway, so you might be asking yourself here, well, in a game the Bills won, why is the tone, these takeaways and these breakdowns feel a bit, maybe a little bit more than just a bit underwhelming, if not negative as a whole? Well, it's pretty simple, man. Josh Allen and group put this team on their back. There are moments, others stepped up for sure. Cam Lewis stepped up. I thought James Cook had a pretty good game. I thought Von Miller, low-key, had a good game. A couple others. But most of that we covered. At the end of the day, the star players on each side of the ball carried this team to a win. There wasn't a hell of a lot to love about this game other than arguably their two best players. Well, not arguably with one, but arguably their two best players played like their two best players. And that's how you're going to win a lot of football games, especially when you're playing a team that on paper is inferior. As for PFF, real quick, couple game agreements, disagreements, quick thoughts. Connor McGovern, so game graded wise. I kind of felt that was in line a little bit. He was charged with 2 pressures. It's like the opposite of what you get with Mitch Morse. Like with Mitch Morse, he's really solid in pass protection, but pretty mid in run blocking. It was the other way around with Connor McGovern this game. It was kind of felt in line. It was a really good game grade-wise for the left side of the line. Deion Dawkins graded awesome, 79.6 overall. He had like a 86 pass grade or pass block grade. He was great. I thought David Edwards had a really solid starting debut for this team, a 75 overall grade. James Cook ran 4 times for 29 yards behind him. So the offensive line was a pretty mixed bag. Torrens was awful in terms of grades, and I think his performance. McGovern was kind of mid. Dawkins and Edwards, very good. Spencer Brown had a pretty good game too, minus a couple mistakes. But overall, I thought Spencer Brown was fine. I agreed I was in line with what PFF says about them. Where I'm not in line with them is Terrell Bernard. They graded him shit poor. And I don't completely buy that. 37.2 overall grade, worse on the entire defense for anyone who played a minimum 12 snaps. In parts, I mean, it was not great for him for sure. Only had a 47 tackle grade, which is right. That felt good. Shitty pressure grade, shitty pass coverage grade as well. And again, I don't really agree. He wasn't special by any means, but I thought he played fine. He showed some explosiveness on a few plays. He had that key pressure on a 4th down play that forced Murray to get rid of that ball quickly, more quickly than he wanted to. Tackling was an issue, though. I mean, he did whiff on a few tackles that you can see on film. Definitely want to see him clean that up. But yeah, man, if you just look at the grades, you didn't watch the game, you look at the grades, you would think that Terrell Bernard was a disaster out there like Ed Oliver or Osiris Torrens. Not the case at all. I said, put a wrap on this real quick here. Quick turnaround for the Bills. Miami, Thursday night. Obviously a big game early in the season. Miami eked out a win over Jacksonville. We'll talk about that on the show a lot more tomorrow. I'm going to have Matt Moran from Buffalo Rumblings on. In fact, this is going to be the first time Matt's been on the podcast, but he's going to be a regular for me this season. Hopefully weekly. We'll see how that works out. But when Matt's on, we'll have some big picture stuff from the previous game. We'll take a look ahead to the next opponent, some general thoughts around the league, stuff like that. So that's going to be tomorrow. Thursday show, a Bills-Dolphins primer and preview show. Going to have a guest. Not sure who the hell it's going to be, but I will have one for sure. And then Thursday nights, late, of course, we will be on live immediately following the Bills at Dolphins, talking Buffalo after dark, so to speak. I'll be joined by Joe from Queens, as I will for all Bills games this season. I thought, by the way, he did a really good job helping me recap the game, the post game this week against Arizona. But anyway, that's what's on tap for the rest of the week here. That's going to do it for this show. Thank you very much. My throat is killing me. How do you solo podcasters out there talk for 35 to 45 minutes and not completely lose your voice? It's incredible. Beyond me. Anyway, thank you very much. Be back. Brand new show. Matt Warren from Buffalo Rumblings joins me tomorrow.